another powerful episode of Mind Over Masculinity. I'm your host Avik, and today's episode is one of those conversations that I know will land deep. Not just for the leaders, but for anyone who is trying to build a life of clarity, discipline, and impact. Yeah. And dear listeners, my guest today is please welcome Dusty Holcomb. So, welcome to the show, Dusty.
Thank you so much, Avik. It's a pleasure to be here. We're looking forward to this conversation.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Dusty. So, Dusty has walked the walk, I would say. I mean, he's a former CEO, a 5-time Ironman, and the founder of the Arqcus Group. But what sets him apart is not the titles, it's his belief that all great leadership begins with the self leadership. That's amazing, right? Yeah, it's true as well. So, for nearly 3 decades, he has lived out a daily practice of reflection and the discipline, which is helping leaders move from burnout to the clarity, from chaos to alignment. So, he also hosts Leadership Unlocked, where he unpacks the defining moments that shape how we lead and how we live. So, this isn't a leadership theory, dear listeners. It's a leadership forged in the fire of real life. So, let's dive into how self leadership becomes the keystone of leadership success. So, welcome to the show again.
Thank you so much. It's so funny hearing you talk about that. I'd like to think that I had it all figured out, but it's been 30 years of learning and growing and continuing to refine, as all leaders do, as all people do. We learn and we grow and we get better every day.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. So that's still like as you have said again that again and again that the self leadership is the foundation of all leadership. So, in your eyes, like what does self leadership really mean? I mean, if you can share.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you think about self leadership. Most people think of this and they go, "Oh, well, that must be selfish," or that must be, something, that you only do when you have time for it. And really, in order to be an impactful leader of others, and leadership is influence. John Maxwell once said that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So forget about the titles. Think about the opportunity to have influence with and for another human being means that you've got to demonstrate and exemplify that you walk the talk, that you practice what you preach. And that's what self-leadership is. Self-leadership is being able to step back and go, here's who I am. Here's how I need to grow and get better. And here's what I'm going to do to make that happen. In essence, I'm going to lead myself first. I'm going to put the same principles and practices in place that I would with leading others, but I'm going to apply them to me because I am not as good yet as I could be or should be or was created to be. And so therefore, how do I need to improve? And the hardest work we'll ever do is leading ourselves because, it's easiest to let ourselves down. And so when I think about it, and the definition of self-leadership is being able to look in the mirror and say, here's who I am, here's who I need to be, and here's what I'm going to work on to make that happen so that I can expand and increase my influence for others.
Exactly. Perfect. And like if a leader isn't grounded in the self leadership, what according to you are the cracks that usually start to show up first?
Yeah, the cracks that usually start to show up first is, well, the simple ones are things like, if a person saying, do what I say, not what I do, they don't actually do the things they tell their team to do. Well, then what happens is you get compliance. You get minimum viable effort. You get just enough to meet the goal or the target, but you don't get discretionary effort. You don't get respect. And so when someone is not leading themselves first, hypocrite may be too strong of a word, but something like that where people They comply, but they don't believe. And what leaders really are doing, the best leaders, the greatest leaders, they are casting a vision that people believe in. They're walking the talk themselves. So people believe in them, they buy into them, and then they create a culture of commitment and accountability. And so the cracks that appear is you get much less buy in, you get minimum commitment, you get minimum accountability because there's a lack of respect and a lack of trust. You get
Mhm.
transactional effort, not relational effort. And that's a huge difference.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. And I really love this because so many men listening are chasing the titles or the metrics. But what you're saying actually flips it. Like success without self leadership is like building a house on sand. So,
It
yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not durable. And, there's so many classic stories where, people grow so far and then they hit a ceiling and they don't grow anymore. Well, those who are good at leading themselves hit that ceiling and it's only a plateau. There's yet another mountain and they go, okay, the thing that got me here is not going to get me there. One of my mentors once told me, Dusty, your greatest strength will
Mhm.
become your binding constraint if you don't create systems and processes and awareness to overcome it. And so it's not about the title. It's all about being able to leverage who you are to become better, to create more impact, to create more influence, and you've got to do that for yourself first. It's the antithesis of selfish. It's how you can best serve others.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you have lived through the sea suit and the Ironman world, like both places where discipline is the real currency. So, what according to you, the role does daily discipline play in shaping the leadership character? What do you say?
I think discipline is everything. I think it's hard and it's not easy to, you know, do the workout when you don't want to. It's not easy to have the tough conversation when you can ignore it. It's not easy to do the hard right thing and, fire the client or whatever it may be, but it's the right thing to do. And the discipline is to do the thing that must and needs to be done even when you don't want to do it. Like that's the definition of discipline. What you have to do though, like the reason it can become so challenging is it can be so overwhelming if you're not breaking it down into smaller chunks. Like the reason daily discipline is so important is because you can do one thing this morning to set your day aside. You can say, okay, I'm going to spend 5 minutes itemizing and prioritizing the three most important things for the day. It only takes 5 minutes, but I'm going to do that today and I'm going to do it every day. And then I'm going to spend 5 minutes at the end of the day going, did I achieve them? Why or why not? What am I going to have to do different tomorrow? And so
Exactly.
it's the small disciplines that compound. And I think that that is ultimately, if I were to distill leadership impact into a system or a model, it is a compound equation. It is all the things that we do with discipline on it, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, but all the little things that we do are compounding. And that's what self leadership is a compounding effect of all the little things that allow you to create and enhance that impact. But daily discipline's hard. It's extremely hard. And I have days I fully admit where I go, I don't wanna. And some days I listen to that little voice and then, kick myself in the tail later. But you got to do what you don't want to do. That's discipline.
Hmm. Amazing. And like for someone who's listening, like who's uh, never practiced the discipline consistently, so what's the smallest daily shift that could create the momentum according to you? What do you say?
Yeah, I think the single smallest daily shift,
Okay.
if I could go back in time and give myself this advice 30 years ago, I probably would have thought it was too simple. But it's the simple practice that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. The 5 minutes at the before the day begins, before the chaos starts, before the all the emails come in the inbox,
Mm.
sitting down and saying, "These are the 3 most important things I must accomplish today," not should. It's a very important distinction in the word there. Not should accomplish, not want to accomplish. These are the 3 things I must accomplish today. And then closing the day with the reflection of what worked, what didn't. Did I achieve these things? What will have to be different tomorrow? The reason I say that the word must is so important is because you are articulating and deciding in advance what is important just on a daily basis. Like it's, sometimes we get lost in these big visions, and I love vision planning, but I can't think about all the things that are going to happen 3 years from now. But today, these are the 3 things that must happen to answer this question. In order for this day to have been well spent, in order for this day to have been a success. One of my favorite questions to ask people, and I do it all the time with anyone I can. I'd love to hear your answer to this question too. Is at the end of the day, when you close it all down, when you go to bed, what must have happened in order for that day to have been a success? And so what you do when you do this daily discipline is you decide, and it allows you to say no or not yet to things that might pull you from that, or just and yes to the things that, sometimes things come up. Sometimes you have to do these things. That would be the single practice. And it's so easy to overcomplicate. It's so easy to get wrapped up in, well, we have to have a monthly, then a weekly, and then a daily. Just start with the daily, then you can build from there. That's where I would start, and I'd love to, like, how do you measure success, when at the end of the day?
Definitely. I mean, obviously, it comes with the so what I feel or what I follow is like uh, before going to the bed, like it's I do not do kind of there are people who does the writing like before they go to bed. I don't do that, but what I follow is like I close my eyes and I think like what better things I have done today,
Mm,
and what are the wrong areas, not wrong areas, or what I should have done, or what are the challenges I faced. Then I realized, like, okay, this is the issue because of which that was the problem.
mhm.
Now, next what? So for me is always like for tomorrow, what is the next? So that is something which I do, and I mean absolutely, where you're 100% correct what you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so powerful when you take that 5 minutes, and it doesn't have to take long, and I think that's where and I, for years, thought it had to be this 30-minute, you know, process. It doesn't.
Mm.
It's 5 minutes, but it's the best 5 minutes you can spend.
Very true. Yep. And um, like as men, many of us are raised to lead outwardly, like the teams, families, companies. But really, are we taught to lead inwardly? I mean, that is, I think, like, uh, uh, and before I say, like, how did you personally learn that balance between leading yourself and leading others? What do you have to say?
Yeah, there's a couple things that come to mind with this question. One is I think as men, we're often, taught, wrongly so, and not everyone, but many are taught that
Mm.
to express concern or worry or fear is a weak sign of weakness. And so therefore we don't admit outwardly that which bothers us. And so I think we as men underestimate the power of a forum or of having a peer group or having, mentors that we lean on. And the reason I think that's important for this concept of leading yourself is that when we're not also talking about it with others, we stay in our own heads and we create an echo chamber. And we create this echo chamber that we might be leading ourselves down the wrong path. We might be leading ourselves negatively because we're buying into whatever the language is that's in our head. I mean, whatever we talk about to ourselves is what we believe about ourselves. And we, as men, because it's not always socially appropriate or has been in the past for us to share concerns or be vulnerable or have things that could be perceived as weakness, we keep it inside. Well, that's negative self leadership, right? If we don't get that out, if we don't get an accurate reflection and mirror from others and with others to so we can better improve in our systems. Like you can be incredibly self-aware, but you still need to have the right people around you. You still need to be safe, and it still needs to be safe to say these things. And so self leadership as men is curating people who will let you speak and share and be vulnerable and honest and do so in a safe place. And that is an incredibly important part of self leadership. So it's not always an inner monologue, it's curating the right external people to help refine your inner monologue. Sometimes your inner monologue needs to have, the BS flag thrown at it. Sometimes you need to be, tell that voice that it's wrong. And sometimes, you need to stop buying into your own stuff, and get out of your own head. So I think that that's how I would think about that, especially for men.
Hmm, definitely. Yeah. And like you have been open about trading burnout for the clarity. So, uh, in your experience, like, what's the first signal like a man should pay attention to that he is drifting towards burnout? So, what's that?
When the thing that used to give you joy is now a chore, would be the first time. And there are cases where the burnout may not be an internal symptom, it may be an external reflection from others. And so you may have those around you who are uh, walking on eggshells because you're a little snappier. You don't even notice that you have changed, that you are tired, that you are stretched, that and so your external listening post will often tell you if you pay attention to what's going on. And as an entrepreneur, and men or women, but as men specifically, as entrepreneurs, we and founders and leaders, like we get so wrapped up in like more, and like the list is never going to end. I have to tell myself every day, I'm not going to finish everything I need to do that's on my list, and that's okay. I'm just going to finish the most important things. And so these burnout signs that can come up can be in your environment and to be a reflection back. They can also come from you can recognize the quality of your thinking. It's taking you longer to do something that used to be very, very quick. I never had the wisdom for the first 20 years of my career to really understand and appreciate the value of sleep and the value of diet, and then learning more about that to tune and adjust my sleep and my diet to optimize the quality of my output, to optimize the quality of my work. And I'm fully admit I'm guilty. I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And so I would do it 24/7, 365. But that's not healthy for me, the people I serve, or the people I love, because those symptoms do show up when you're just tired all the time. The work quality goes down, the frustration increases. And so I think if I were to put a bow around it very cleanly, I would say when you get frustrated by things that used to bring you joy, or when the others around you change how they treat you based on how you show up, burnout's a
Mhm.
likely issue.
True. Very true. Yeah. Oh, lovely. And when it's all said and done, like, so what do you hope like people will say about the way Dusty led, not just in the business but in life? So, what do you say?
I would hope that people would say,
Uh-huh.
I know that Dusty was a very intentional leader. And by working with him and uh, being served by him,
Mm.
I learned to be more intentional about the things that matter. Like that is my most fervent hope. My personal mission statement is to positively empower the success of others, and I've been able to do that in a leadership role for almost 30 years. And being intentional is the thing that separates those who show up and then those who really serve. And that's what I want. I want people to know and do and have made some change in their lives. I don't need to know about it. I don't need to see the ripple effect. I just want to know it made a difference.
True. Exactly true. Wow, lovely, lovely. So, what a conversation, Dusty. Thank you so much for bringing both the wisdom and humility to the table today. And what I'm thinking away in this is, uh, I mean, not thinking, I would say, I mean, what I have learned right now, or I'm taking away from this is leadership is not a role that one should step into. It's a life that one is built day by day. Like self leadership, discipline, clarity, they are not just the buzzwords, but they are the survival skills for the modern man who wants to lead with impact. So,
So
Dusty,
well said. Couldn't agree more.
yeah, yeah. So, dear listeners, ask yourself like Dusty's 5 questions. Don't wait until um, burnout or crisis forces you to. The answer you uncover will shape not just the leader you become, but the man you are becoming.
Mm.
So, if you have found value in today's episode, please share it with a brother, a colleague, a friend who needs to hear this. And always remember that leadership is not about the size of your team, but it's all about the size of your integrity. And so, Darcy, like if someone wants to connect with you, what is the best medium to connect?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me would, of course, be LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Our website is arcusgroup.com, ARCQUS group.com. And for your audience, I put together a special assessment. One of the things that in working with leaders all the time, we hear about leadership where folks get stuck and they're trying to figure out what is it that's causing me to be on the verge of burnout. And so we have a very simple 9-question leadership assessment that folks could take at burnout2breakout.com, and that'll give them a little direction. It's free. It's completely free. No charge or anything at all, and help them identify where they're stuck and why, and some tips around how to break free.
Amazing. That's really amazing. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And with this hope, this is Avik signing off from Mind Over Masculinity. Stay disciplined, stay grounded, and most importantly, lead yourself first. So, thank you so much.